Hello, everyone. Looking at the second set of study questions. This is on Genesis 18, 19, and 22. It's really about Abraham and Lot and his daughters and what happens in Sodom and Gomorrah. And then especially what happens between Abraham, God, and Isaac in chapter 22. Number one, what is Abraham trying to do when he asks the Lord, will you really sweep away the righteous with the wicked? I think it's quite remarkable what Abraham is trying to do, and I think he's clearly trying to convince God to spare these places, pointing out that these cities, whatever the people in them, some of the people in them may have done in terms of sin, and certainly not all of them. And so, if he can find 50 or 10 or 5 righteous people, maybe he can try to, will you agree not to destroy the whole place? But that that question, that rhetorical question, will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked, is really calling into question the justice of God. Abraham says to God, this is far from you. This idea that you'll wipe out these cities in their entirety, this is far be it. This is far from you. Can't, the creator of the universe has to be just, and this is unjust. It seems like what he's saying, which is something that will become very thematic in the book of Job, which we'll read next week. Number two, what place does Lot have in the story of the destruction of Sodom? Well, he has a very important place. When the angels of the Lord, who seem to be angels, these strangers come and visit him in Sodom, and he offers up his own daughters to the townsfolk who come to take these men away to use for sex. I mean, it's very striking and surprising thing. I mean, Lot has a lot of, to do with the story of Sodom and the destruction of the cities of the plain, Sodom and Gomorrah. And God gets him out and his family, and his wife looks back when she's told not to and turns into a pillar of salt. I mean, very, very, Lot is really at the center. He's kind of the most important figure, really, in this story of the destruction of the cities of the plain. Number three, what significance do you find the story of Lot's wife? I don't know, man. When she's told not to look back, they're all told not to look back, and being human, she does, right? And then it's turned into a pillar of salt. I don't know what to make of it. I've heard all sorts of interpretations. Number four, how do you respond to the story of Lot and his daughters? I mean, I hate to, highlight it, but it's an important, jarring part of the story that they get him drunk and have sex with him so they can have children, because they're out there in the wilderness and they figure they'll never get husbands. I guess it's the idea, the motivation. It's another shocking thing. I don't know. How do you respond to it? I mean, I've heard all sorts of things from students over the years. I don't know how you respond to it. Number five, what happens in Genesis 22? What happens in Genesis 22 is God commands Abraham to make a sacrifice of his son, his little boy, which really basically means to take him out, tie him up, slit his throat, and burn his body, which is another shocking thing. Boy, it's a reading. All these readings have shocking things. Number six, how would you assess the moral and spiritual significance of what happens in Genesis 22? It really depends upon your judgment of Abraham. His willingness to carry out God's order has to be interpreted. How do you assess its spiritual significance, its moral significance, however you want to put it? What he's asked to do is, of course, horrible and shocking. Is his willingness to do it something that makes you admire him, or something that makes you look askance at him? And that's really what I was asking in question 7. He's willing, on the face of it, he's willing to sacrifice his son, do this terrible thing, out of loyalty to God. So it's the most dramatic in literature that I know, in any literature, this dramatic choice to be made between decency and piety, I guess, doing what God wants. I don't know. If I have more or less admiration for the character of Abraham as a result of his willingness to do that, I don't know.